Process-centric IT is really about taking a holistic look at your organization's processes, the ones that have been automated and also the ones that could be automated if you had the ability to do so. And it's really around setting a spectrum in place around categorizing those processes from ones which are non-differentiating commodity processes on the one side, and then the differentiating and unique processes on the other side, and looking at how you're going to satisfy all of those process automation needs. Clearly the non-differentiating ones, you've got a set of options to be able to buy those as part of packages or to outsource them, and those are probably the ones where you don't want to spend an awful lot of your time. What you'd really want to do is to spend the time on the differentiating unique processes and figuring out how you can actually implement those by taking advantage of the engines that you've already built in terms of your ERP applications, your custom applications, and being able to wire the functions in those applications together to be able to support the differentiating and unique processes. The key technology enablers are really the whole set of standards around service-oriented architecture. So at the most basic, it's web services, so the ability to be able to expose services from existing applications, then to be able to consume those services through a process execution environment. And that consists of two things. One is the business process execution language, which allows you to describe a process in terms of the steps and the logic within the process, and allows you to connect it to the underlying services. And then the second is the process execution engine, which is essentially the technology that allows you to run that business process execution language. So those are the key technologies of today that are fueling this trend, and we're seeing ever more capability being provided within those standard environments. And not only that, we're seeing multiple vendors actually implement these standards. So you now have the possibility that never existed before of interoperability across multiple different technology vendors, which is key to being able to automate processes which span different platforms, different applications, different businesses. While the primary business driver is the need to be more agile, which is an overused term, but it really is being more agile than your competitors. You need to be able not only to automate more things in order to decrease your turnaround times, but you also need to be able to change those processes. So the processes that you have that give you competitive advantage are really the ones that are on the edge of your enterprise. They're not the ones deeply embedded. And because they give you competitive advantage, you want to continually tune and adapt and create new ones. So that's the real business driver, is the ability to rapidly change processes in order to react to new market situations. So the challenges, I mean, there's many of them, but I think the key ones are, first of all, mindset and skills. There hasn't been a lot of focus in the recent past on business process. It's been far more, let's solve a problem by implementing an application. So process-centric IT requires you to take a broader view than just a particular application. And many organizations, people within organizations, now view business process as an application. So when you ask them about a business process, they will tell you, it's a particular application. So that's one challenge, is how to break that mindset and bring some fresh or higher level thinking to the table. The second is around the technology. So although I mentioned a set of technologies that enable this to be realized, those technologies are still, I wouldn't say maturing, they're still evolving. So we're some way from maturity. So having all the right tools, the capabilities of the language, the execution platforms, the operability of all of that is still something that is somewhat of a moving target, although there are a base set of standards to work from. And then I think the third is being able to actually take that holistic view and look at the non-differentiating and the differentiating processes, being able to map them onto that type of spectrum, and then actually being able to harness all of the various constituents and stakeholders within an enterprise to actually go and tackle these differentiating processes. That typically forces you to cross organizational boundaries, whether they're internal or external, and there's obviously political governance, funding issues associated with that. So what we're seeing is a resurgence in interest in enterprise architecture. So really taking a top-down view of a business, either from a holistic perspective or just in terms of a particular area of the business, and really looking at the processes that support that business. This is different to what we've seen over the past 5 to 6 years, for example, where people were far more focused on solving a particular problem by installing a particular application. So I think that's one positive thing that we're seeing to address these challenges, is that people are actually taking a top-down view. I think also what we're seeing is just the industry, the technology industry as a whole, is rallying around the standards that support process automation, web services, XML. And that's different to what we've seen in prior attempts, where the prior attempts have all been proprietary, and there was never enough critical mass. So those attempts basically failed. So we're seeing with the standardization a much larger set of vendors playing in this space, and also we're seeing the advancement in terms of the technology and the capability proceed at a far greater pace because of that. I think the trend ultimately will allow organizations to actually take a slice all the way down from the processes all the way into their infrastructure, be able to measure the processes, to be able to understand where bottlenecks, performance issues, excessive demand, whatever, they'll be able to identify that within the processes, and they'll be able to tie that into the underlying services that make up that process. And they'll be able to take that even further and to be able to dynamically provision infrastructure to be able to accommodate spikes in demand, or to be able to release infrastructure to be able to redeploy that infrastructure elsewhere. I think that's the promise, is to have a much more agile and automated enterprise from a process and IT perspective. So I think over the next 3 to 5 years you will start to see organizations achieve that, probably not across their entire organization, but certainly within particular business units or particular areas of activity. So I think the key takeaway points are: start looking at business processes, take a process view of the world rather than just an application view of the world. Expand the scope of projects that you're undertaking to allow you to take that step up and look across the landscape. Take a hard look at your processes and look at the ones that really are non-differentiating and commodity, and provision those or acquire those either through outsourcing or through packaged applications. And then for the ones that really are truly differentiating and unique, start to figure out how you can take advantage of the standardization that's occurring, which allows you to implement those processes without embedding them in custom-built applications, thereby enabling you to change the processes far faster than you could before.